In the Legend of Zelda games, there are a couple of things that are crucial, because without them, it wouldn't be a Zelda game. One of those is interesting enemies and bosses. They are here to challenge you in dungeons, because while puzzles are fun, it shouldn't be the only thing between you and the prize. However, as you can imagine, not all of them make the cut. And so we are going to look at some really cool cut enemies today. So, let's go! Number 5. Usually when you're looking for cut content in Zelda games, then the files are a great place to start. In general, the inside of a Zelda game can be a bit messy, but if you dig enough, you can find some real gold. However, a buddy of mine, Zelda Master, likes to look somewhere else to find interesting remnants of stuff that Nintendo created. Hyrule Historia, which is filled with all kinds of concept art, as well as other cool stuff. And inside of it, I found this, and it blew my mind when I saw it. It's some sort of monster that has a bit of an Oni vibe, and it also kinda looks like a big Blinn from Spirit Tracks. Now in Hyrule Historia, it says that this monster went unused, but if it did make the cut, it would have been more than twice the size of Link. Aside from that, it seems like it would have eaten moblins, rolls its spiked club over the floor like a roller, and gets very angry when Link hits him, causing it to swing around the ball and chain around its ankle. So clearly he would have been a bit scary with the whole moblin eating, but also quite goofy due to its temper tantrums. Now, if you look at its design, it looks like this enemy would have appeared in the Wind Waker, Four Swords Adventures, or the Minish Cap. And the shield on Link's back is also a good indicator. I mean, it is exactly the same as the one seen in those games. But in the end, Nintendo cut it, and so we never got the chance to fight this behemoth. Number 4. Now sure, you can find a lot of cool stuff in Hyrule Historia. It's one of the best things they ever released. However, you can also find some gems inside of early builds or even final releases. And one of those is this early version of an Iron Knuckle from Ocarina of Time. This was a version that Nintendo used early on in development and was actually recreated by fans. Originally, this dungeon and the enemies seen in it were shown off at a convention known as Space World in 1996 and 1997. And as you can see, back then, enemies were quite stiff. Well, that's at least what you can see in the original footage from back then. However, in the footage you are seeing now, they used the finished AI that was seen in the final game. That's why his attacks look so familiar. Now clearly, this version of the Iron Knuckle is quite different from the one seen in the final version of Ocarina of Time, because this one looks more like a traditional knight, which is actually a better fit for a Dark Nut. And in my opinion, it looks like that Nintendo used the common Dark Nut design seen in earlier Zelda games as a starting point when developing the Iron Knuckle. I mean, just compare it to the stuff seen in A Link to the Past. But in the end, they chose to do something else. Something weird and less traditional, and that made it into the game. And personally, I think both look pretty good. Number 3. Now, throughout the years, Nintendo had created a lot of cool secondary villains and bosses. Think of Majora's Mask, Aghanim, or Zant. However, out of all of them, there's one that always steals the show due to his style and flamboyant personality: Girim. He's the villain that hunts Zelda throughout Skyward Sword in order to resurrect his master Demise, the Demon King who wanted to take over the world. Now, in the final game, he looks fantastic. However, his earlier designs can be found in Hyrule Historia, and they are also quite interesting. And one of those looks especially cool and different. This one, which looks more like some sort of samurai Oni. Now, an Oni is a kind of yokai, demon, orc, ogre, or troll in Japanese folklore, and they are mostly known for their fierce and evil nature. So that is already quite different from what we saw in the final game. And it doesn't end there, because as you can see, in its first phase, it would have had 2 blades. But in the second phase, it would reveal its 2 other arms and attack you with a total of 4 weapons. In a way, it would have been similar to the boss scene in the Ancient Cistern. It could even be that they recycled the old design into that boss. Now, this version of Girim looks very different from the final one. It's a lot more badass. However, it's also a bit similar to Demise, which could be a reason for scrapping it, sadly enough. Number 2. The Armos is a type of enemy that is seen in a lot of Zelda games, and they come in all kinds of different shapes and sizes. But usually they are statues that look lifeless and then all of a sudden come to life and try to take you out. But they kind of just hop around and don't really move. However, originally Nintendo wanted to put one in Twilight Princess and even has arms. Fans call it the Armos Titan, and it looks like a traditional Armos, but they have no weapons and attack with their hands. But unlike other Armos, it has a gem on its chest, and it can be successfully killed by shooting 3 arrows or 1 bomb arrow at it. So in a lot of ways, it's quite different from a normal Armos, and reminds me more of some sort of robot. And I bet it would have been very fun to fight one of these, with the chest gem being a hard target to hit with a bow, especially on the GameCube version. Although I think the Wii version would have been more fun with the motion control stuff when using the bow. But we didn't get it in the end. Honorable mention! Now, when I was going through the files of the Wind Waker, I came across something that was quite odd. I wanted to include it, but on the other hand, it wouldn't be the best fit. But I still wanted to show it off. It's an early version of the Poe, and it looks quite rough and very weird. So just marvel at its beauty, because you won't see it often. Believe me. Number 1. Now for a number 1, we will look at something that's from a more recent Zelda title, Breath of the Wild. With this game, Nintendo wanted to do some interesting and new stuff, which was certainly needed because Nintendo had been relying a bit too much on the Ocarina of Time formula, which they realized with Skyward Sword. And so when making a new game, they decided to go sicko mode for a bit. And while the new game was amazing and included a lot of innovation, it could have been even more insane. In the Masterworks book that they released, they showed off a bunch of enemy ideas that are haunting. All of these don't look like Zelda enemies, but creatures from a game like Dark Souls or Bloodborne. Those were titles that were inspired by amazing works like Berserk, or the cosmic horror genre as a whole, which Stephen King, Shinji Ito, and H.P. Lovecraft are known for. Personally, I love this kind of stuff, so it would have been awesome to see things like this in Breath of the Wild. But sadly enough, Nintendo didn't include them, which is logical to an extent. It would have been a lot to take in for most Zelda fans after all. And these designs weren't seen in Tears of the Kingdom either, even though they said that that game was gonna be more dark and spooky. So yeah, maybe we will never see enemies like these in a Zelda game. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to subscribe, click the bell button, all that good stuff. Leave suggestions down below for what videos I should do. I'm trying to release a lot of content these last 2 months of the year, and also any projects that I had in the back catalog. This was one of the back catalog projects. This was gonna be a collab with Zelda Master, but that kind of fell through in the end. Not because of, like, personal reasons or whatever, it just didn't work out, like the planning and everything. Me and Zelda Master are still really good buddies. But yeah, I thought I would just kind of slightly rework the script and release it anyway, because I thought it would be interesting. Alright, cool. I hope y'all like this. Bye!